Hello, everyone. Welcome and welcome back to the Church of the Recessional. And before we get our service underway, would you please take this moment to check your cell phones, electronics, and place them on silent. I'd also like to thank those who are tuning in online to join us virtually. So thank you so much for coming together once again to honor and celebrate your beloved Tony. We're going to begin the service. Thank you.
We cannot control the movement of time, nor can we control our own destiny or the destinies of those whom we love. But we can take comfort in knowing that those who have lived in our hearts are never really gone. For as long as we keep them with us in our hearts and in our thoughts, they will be with us always. For love, which is timeless, never ceases to exist. Welcome. My name is Jefferson Beaker, and I am honored and also humbled to be your memorial celebrant for our service this afternoon as we remember and celebrate the life of Tony Campa. Let us begin with a prayer. Dear Creator God, we come today to honor Tony, to celebrate his life and his beautiful spirit. We have gathered here today not only to grieve the loss of his physical life with us, but to also give thanks to you for that life that impacted and left a long impression among us, to celebrate and give thanks for how life was when he was with us. We give thanks for the gifts that Tony left with each of us, the gifts of love, friendship, laughter, and joy. The presence of these people here today is a testimony to how much love he was able to spread while he was on this earth. Lord, we ask you to comfort us this day as we come together to stand in solidarity and support for one another. We pray a peace that we cannot even begin to comprehend, to be with each person who is now experiencing a void in life. We pray that sorrow can be turned into moments to remember who Tony was and what he changed and accomplished in this world. That his memory would lead each of us to value time, to never take a moment for granted, and to inspire us to continue to spread to others the beautiful spirit that Tony shared with us. Keep Tony by your side. We know that in your arms he is safe, protected, and at peace. Amen. When we gather as we have done today for a memorial service, we are not only remembering the life of a loved one, but we are also joining together to provide love and support for each other as we start down the road of grief. Friends and family surrounding us provides just that extra buffer to help us find the strength and the courage to take each next step, one after another, in the coming days. The presence of each of you here provides that little extra bit of strength to help along the way. We gather today because that's what people do. Since the beginning of time, it has been part of the human condition that we stop to acknowledge the death of someone who was part of our lives, to give honor to a life lived, and to begin to figure out what this loss means to the ones left behind, to provide a sacred space for the pain and the grief, to establish the significance and the unique aspects of their personality and of their experience. We gather to catch our breath as we begin the first tentative steps toward reconstructing a new reality. In times such as this, when our lives are faced with devastating loss, and in these times when we seek comfort and assurance that our loved one is safe, at peace, and also that we will one day see them again, these beautiful words of Jesus that are found in the 14th chapter of the Gospel of John can help us in finding the strength and the courage we need. Let not your hearts be troubled. Believe in God, believe also in me. In my Father's house there are many mansions. If it were not so, would I have told you that I go to prepare a place for you? And if I go and I prepare a place for you, I will come again and take you to myself, so that where I am there, you may be also. Writer, teacher, and theologian Ernest Holmes has written, "It's human nature to grieve over the loss of dear ones. We love and we cannot help missing them. We shall realize that they are in God's keeping and that they are safe. We shall realize that loving friends have met them and that their life still flows on with the currents of eternity. We shall feel that we have not lost them. They have only gone on before. So we shall view eternity from a higher standpoint, as continuity of time, forever and ever expanding until in time we shall see in everyone an unfolding soul and eternal destiny." I read a quote recently that really spoke to me, and as I thought about this service and preparing for it, I wanted to share it with you, for it said, "Some days I wish I could go back in life, not to change anything, because I know I can't, but to feel a few things twice." I believe that we can indeed begin that process by the telling and the retelling of our stories. For the telling of our stories are the things that help us to move into an unknown future with a celebration of what and who we have loved in the past. It's a journey of remembering in this present moment, this afternoon, right here, right now, remembering how Tony always made you feel. The things that we have experienced in the memories we have of him are the gift that he has left with us. They are a gift because it is through our memories and the telling and the retelling of our stories that we can feel a few things twice, and not just twice, but again and again and again. Some of the experiences and the memories are monumental, of large events and people who have touched our lives deeply and have changed who we are for the better. And some experiences led perhaps to smaller memories that can sometimes even feel a bit like a footnote, but they are no less significant in the lessons and the blessings that they have given to us. Large or small matters not. It is the feeling that touched you and continues to live within you. Experience is feeling, and memory is bringing forth that feeling to bless us again and again, even if in some small measure. We tell our stories not just to share with others, but we tell our stories so that we don't forget, that we can feel again all the emotions that have touched our lives and have changed us. A very wise man once wrote, "We do not remember days, we remember moments." As you continue to remember Tony and to tell your stories of him, his presence will continue to bless you in many, many ways. For Tony will forever be as close to you as your very next thought of him. So remember to share your stories about Tony with one another. Share them, for it is the way that helps you to move forward. It has been said that you are as young as your faith, as old as your doubt, as young as your self-confidence, as old as your fear, as young as your hope. Tony lived to be 44 in earthly years, but he remains young with you forever in spirit. The delight he had in the times when you laughed together and told stories and shared perhaps your deepest, most inner thoughts. These are the things that will continue to bring deep and lasting meaning for you. Kate O'Neill has written about love. Love doesn't die with death. Love is like liquid. When it pours out, it seeps into others' lives. Love changes form and shape. Love gets into everything. Death doesn't conquer all. Love does. Love wins every single time. Love wins by lasting through death. Love wins by loving more, loving again, loving without fear. Every life is special, and every life is precious, and every life that we meet has an opportunity to make a significant impact and blueprint upon us. Eleanor Roosevelt had written, "Many people walk in and out of our lives, but only true friends leave footprints on our heart." And it is that beautiful blueprint, those footprints, that stay with us even after they are gone, for those footprints are blessed. Tony was born on January the 9th, 1979, in Los Angeles. Through and through, one could say he was a true Angelino in heart and in soul. This was his town, and he loved it. He lived in downtown Los Angeles, and he loved being in the middle of the city where all the people in the bars and the people on the streets knew him, for he had friends everywhere. Tony loved his family, his sister, his cousins, his uncles, his aunts, and his grandmother, Elena. and he was proud of his last name, Campa. After all, it was the name of his father who passed away when he was only a year old. He was then raised by his grandmother, Elena, who by adoption became his mother. But always he yearned to have known his father, or to have known what life could have been like with his father's presence and guidance. Somehow he always felt cheated that he didn't have his father with him. I'm told that as he grew up, he got into all the childhood craziness that one could imagine. But during that time, he would meet Susanna, and they were crazy about one another. And even though they were young, a few years into their relationship, they were blessed with the arrival of their daughter, Jessica. Tony was only 20. But he was so excited to be a father. He couldn't wait to meet her, and she changed both Tony and Susanna's lives. But it is said especially Tony's. Perhaps there is no better motivation for becoming a parent that makes one grow up than to have a child, and that is exactly how Tony felt. Jessica was indeed his hero, the person who gave him reason to live and the reason to change his life. He was silly with her, and from the very beginning, their bond was very deep, loving, and it was strong. He influenced her and provided her guidance as much as he possibly could. He supported her when she needed it, and I'm told especially when her mom didn't give her her way. Jessica said she could always call her dad to save the day, or at least hear her out and allow her to vent. And then he would tell her that everything was all right. After Jessica was born, Tony worked at various jobs as a security guard, but eventually he started working at Manning & Cass law firm. He was so happy with his job, and he worked there for years. He was a loyal employee, and he was very passionate about his work. And from what many have shared, a good presence to have around, and someone who will most assuredly be missed. As will come to no surprise to all of you, Tony enjoyed spending most of his free time playing video games. And he enjoyed being surrounded by friends if he wasn't working or playing. As a gamer, he played on all the game consoles there were and was a huge Madden fan. I admit I had to look that up. I didn't know what that was. And he taught himself to build computers. He taught himself the best of the best. Dell and Fry's were his go-to spots. And he was talented and smart, and his knowledge and expertise were always so very impressive. Many of his friends he actually met online playing. And in tribute to him, I know that many of the people that met him through the video games have come here today, and thank you for being here. This past year, I'm told he found a new love, and that was Thailand. He wanted to retire and to move there, and he had planned his next trip for his birthday in January, where he was planning to go and explore by himself. A major passion in Tony's life, and one that certainly again comes as no surprise to any of you, is his love for the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, when Jessica told me on the phone that her dad loved the Eagles, I said to her, "Oh, the band?" I had heard of the Philadelphia Eagles, by the way. And she corrected me, and I love that. Jessica mentioned that his top two priorities, the top two priorities on Tony's list, were her and the Eagles. And she continued to say to me that she wasn't altogether sure which of those two came first. I think you know which came first. For Tony, it was ride or die with the Eagles, for he was in every way a die-hard Eagles fan, and even Eagles green was his favorite color. I love looking out and seeing people wearing the jerseys in tribute to him. How beautiful that is. He hated it when the Eagles lost. And this made, I'm told, for him a particularly bad day. But he was ecstatic when they finally won the Super Bowl in 2018. Tony is remembered as loyal and hardworking, a guy with the biggest personality in the room, filled with sarcasm, and was so unapologetically himself at all times. In any situation, no matter who was there, he could always make people laugh. Jessica said he was definitely the funniest person that she ever knew. He was her protector in any situation she got herself in, and he never once doubted her. I think these words by an unknown author are forever true, Jessica. A daughter may outgrow your lap, but she never outgrows your heart. It was mentioned to me over and over again that above all, Tony was extremely proud of Jessica. And with a heart full of love, he was so proud to be her dad. If there was anyone in this world who spoiled Tony, it was his loving aunt/sister, Audrey. She was chosen as Jessica's Nina, and it was the best decision that could have ever been made for her. When Tony called, Audrey said she went running. She never said no to him. She was one to have known to spoil him in secret for the whole world to see. Everyone knew who was her favorite, her Tonito. She would give her life for him if she could. He was an extension of her older brother, who she missed so very much. And she made a promise to take care of Tony after her older brother died. She kept that promise until Tony's dying day. Tony's Aunt Audrey shared with me that when he was born, she was the lucky one who got to take him home. She held him in her arms in the back seat of his dad's 1963 Chevy Impala. And she was so excited and said he was so handsome with chubby cheeks, 2 dimples in his cheeks and 1 in his chin. The cutest baby she said she had ever seen. She recalled that when he was little, he used to love the big diesel trucks as they would drive by, and he would put his arm out and pull it up and down so that the truck driver would honk the horn. He loved it, and it always brought him such joy. Growing up, he loved camping in Yosemite and playing flag football. And Audrey said he grew up with her 2 boys, and they were more like brothers than cousins. Audrey concluded with, I love him more than words could say, and I can't say anything else, for it is just too hard. Evan Horner wrote that Tony was one of his best friends. They played PlayStation together almost every day. That's actually how they met over 10 years ago. Tony was one of those guys who was always in a good mood, happy to be alive, and only let something bother him for a few moments before he would say, screw it, and get back to everyday life. He had a good sense of humor, loved to laugh, and enjoyed traveling. He loved sports, the Lakers, the Dodgers, but again, most of all, the Philadelphia Eagles. And he would travel to an Eagles game at least once a year to support them, usually in a different city each time. Tony absolutely loved being a dad, Evans said. And not just a dad, but a girl dad. Evan wrote that he had his first daughter in January this year, and Tony constantly told him how much having a girl would change Evan, because it changed him. Evan said that ever since his daughter was born, Tony referred to her as his niece. Tony was family, not just a friend. And Evan underscored that Tony loved his daughter Jessica so much, and you could always tell by the way he spoke about her. Tony had a million friends. He was the center of the friend group, and a lot of his friends can say that they met one another through Tony. He was a simple guy. He didn't need much to be happy. He would get off work, go home, play video games. That's what he loved to do. And he brought people together to do it. Evan shared one story that shows how Tony was able to roll with anything thrown at him. Tony and two other friends had flown to Dallas to visit Evan over Christmas and to go to the Cowboys-Eagles game on Christmas Eve. And it was during, if you recall, the Southwest Airlines debacle where their system shut down, and everyone was stranded all over the country. Tony stayed with Evan for 3 extra days before he decided he wanted to get home by any means necessary. And so he willingly booked a 29-hour Greyhound bus ride to LA from Dallas. And he didn't complain about it once. He was almost eager for the challenge. And Evan said how hard they laughed about that. Tony loved his family and friends and would do anything to take care of them. He had an uncle that would stay with him at times, and Tony would always welcome him or any of his friends into his home. And they were always welcome to stay as long as they wanted. Tony was always up for a good time. Such a big personality whose absence is now so very noticeable. He was loved, and he will be missed by many people. Tony was a lover of rare and hard-to-find oldies music. Now, oldies music is kind of subjective, I think. What might be oldies music to you or to me is going to be different. But he loved oldies music, and he loved cruising the streets with his Uncle Dino, who drove a classic Volkswagen, listening to the music. I love the visual of that. That is so magnificent. He also liked listening to old Sabbath and Led Zeppelin songs. The blues, hard rock sound always came in handy when he had a lot on his mind. I'm told he took up golf even after he swore he never would. And he never thought of it as a sport, but at some point he bought himself a set of clubs, and he started to enjoy it. Tony was very liked with the people at his job, where he worked for 17 years. And he loved that he had become an extension of their family. He was the little brother to many of them, and the son to others, and he was incredibly caring of his work family. As I read the email that I received this morning, it said, Tony loved beautiful ladies and was not at all shy about sharing that. He especially loved the ladies of the Philippines, and he was planning a second trip there next year. Tony's life among you will be missed, but your thoughts of him will remain forever. Tony's services today were paid by the generosity of so many people. He had so many friends in so very many places. I'm told he was a bit private, so not everyone knew about everyone. So it came as a pleasant surprise to many of them that he touched so many people with his humor, his integrity, and his life. He leaves behind his beautiful daughter, Jessica, and sister, Delphina Campa, along with all of his family who loved him, scores of cherished friends, and many, many people who Tony touched in this life. I want to thank Jessica, Susanna Cardenas, Tony's aunt Audrey, and Evan Homer for sharing memories and their thoughts about Tony. And I want to invite Jessica to come forward, if she would. There's some water here if you need it as well.
Thank you so much. Okay, I'm really nervous, so please bear with me. I didn't really know, I didn't really know what the speech was supposed to be about. If I was supposed to tell you guys how much I miss him, how sad I am, how much my life has changed. Okay, or just tell you stories so we can laugh. I started writing this right after my dad passed because I knew I'd have to speak, but I think it also gave me some sort of comfort. I wasn't expecting to be here anytime soon, as I'm sure none of you guys were either. I think it's crazy. I see things like this happen all the time, people losing their parents. I understand it's a natural process of life, but not to me, not to my dad, not us. Nothing about this seems right. Nothing makes sense in my head. I'm still in shock. I've gone through my days where I lock myself in my room just to cry. Car rides yelling at my dad because how could he leave me? Days where I'm mad at the world and anything someone can say pisses me off. Or days when I'm able to laugh at our memories. Grief is weird. I happened to just start my first semester at Cal State Fullerton the week after my dad passed. And I don't know if any of you knew this, but he didn't believe in school. If it were up to him, he'd want me to drop out and get a full-time job. Every time we talk, I told him I was at school. Every time we talk and I would happen to be at school or doing homework, his response was, "You're still on that shit?" And we laughed, and my response was always, unfortunately, yes. He really wanted me to be a court reporter because he said that's where the money was. It never dawned on him how lucky he was. And things don't work like that for everyone, being that he didn't go to college, but he had a cool-ass job because someone took a chance on him. As much as I tried to explain that to him, it wasn't something he understood. Anyways, so Mondays are my long days, and I have like a 4-hour gap before my last class. My mom wasn't answering my messages, and my boyfriend was at work, so I had no one to talk to. And for a split second, I thought, I'm gonna call my dad. I wonder what he's doing. And in that same second, I had to remind myself that I couldn't. It feels really suffocating, like I'm trapped in a box, and most times if I think about it long enough, it freaks me out and causes me many panic attacks because I can't escape it. So my brain forces me to calm myself down by trying to forget, or else I'd go off the rails. Being here makes me want to crawl out of my skin. It's just something I can't and haven't been able to fully comprehend. I swear I put this idea in my head that my dad's faking his death and he's working for the feds. I don't think it could get any more delusional than that. Keep having this idea a few months down the line, I'm gonna be somewhere and get a note slipped to me that says, meet me here. And I'll go, and me and him will be reunited. We'd always say it was us against the world, so I've been confused why he hasn't told me about this secret mission he's on right now. Still now I have this idea that this isn't him, someone's impersonating him, and he's not really dead. He can't be. I haven't had a child yet. And he has to be here to walk me down the aisle on my wedding day. A couple months ago, my dad texted me and said he was looking forward to me having his grandkids. Not now, but he said he'd be there. I still text him every day. I tell him I love him, updates on my life, and hopes maybe one day he'll respond. When I get calls, I still hope they're him because they always were. Sorry. I wish I could ask him for advice, what he would do if it were me instead of him, how I'm supposed to be excited for the things that once brought me excitement. My dad dying was one of my biggest fears and brought me a lot of anxiety over the years. I'm literally living my worst nightmare. My dad and I often bonded over music. I was always so excited to send him songs, the little that I did. Or when I'd put him on songs, it was an accomplishment for me because I learned my love for music through him. Our last argument actually was because I told him Drake is better than Gucci. And if you know my dad, he loves that man. So his response to that was, don't fucking piss me off. But I actually loved to piss him off, and he loved to piss me off. I have a phobia of throw up, so growing up, he always thought it was funny to fake gag and pretend he's gonna throw up. I would freak out, and he would laugh. I think I stopped falling for it a couple years ago. He was my best friend. Our relationship we had was my favorite relationship I had. I'd brag about it to everyone. He was the cool dad. I wanted everyone to meet him. He's the one person who has never doubted me, never made me feel small, belittled me. He was my safe place. I could tell anything to and would never judge me, but just listen. He was my protector, even though he knew I can take care of myself. I used to be so scared of crazy homeless people, and my dad didn't drive, so we walked and bussed the streets of Highland Park in downtown LA, which means a lot of encounters. But he would always grab me and hold me every time, sometimes even before I even realized it. So a couple years ago, this is after high school, I'm ashamed to say I held him passing by a crazy homeless person. He smiled and we laughed, and he said, "You're still scared, dog?" As funny as he thought it was, he was there to make me feel safe and didn't care how old I was. He was gonna do what he had to do. He was also still trying to hold my hand crossing the street up until I was 18, but I had to put that to an end. I wish he was here to hold it now. There was this other time, my dad and I were walking in downtown LA, and my dad was walking behind me, or walking to his apartment, and we were walking through one of those tunnels where cars drive, and the sidewalk was really narrow, so he had to walk behind me with his dog, Rocky. And all of a sudden, this big white van jumps onto the curb behind us as if intentionally tried to hit us. And I somehow knew to duck, and the mirror missed my head by an inch. I would have been gone. It's a cool survivor story I tell people. I never seen my dad so mad. He dropped the leash, of course I grabbed Rocky, and he started sprinting towards the van. I never seen him run so fast or really run at all, so this was a sight to see. I got more scared because I never seen my dad fight. He wasn't that type of man. It drove off, so he never caught up to it, but my dad was ready to grab whoever was driving that van out of it. We were able to laugh about it later, but my dad felt terrible about it for so long. I knew if I needed absolutely anything, he would do it and make it happen. A couple months ago, he randomly texted me and said, "If you killed somebody, who would you call first?" And I didn't even have to think twice. I said, "You first and Nina second." His response was good, I'm glad. We would do anything for each other. I got asked the other day, "What is one thing your dad left with you?" Something along the lines of that. And my answer was, he made me the confident person I am today, to stand on what I say and to stand up for myself. I have always thought really highly of myself, not in a super vain way, but I knew what I deserved and carried myself well. I never realized why I was the way I am. I swear I fully believed it was because I'm a Campa, and as a Campa, it means you're strong. I'm so proud of my last name and to have the last name as him, but really it was because of him that I was so confident and carried myself the way I do. I even have his attitude and sarcasm, which a lot of my family could attest to. Growing up, I would always hear, "Oh, you sure are Tony's daughter," or I'd get called the little him. I always loved when people told me that. I'm the piece of my dad that's still here today. My mom's twin with my dad's almost identical personality. Almost every day, my dad would tell me how proud he was of me, how smart I was, how strong I was, how proud he was to be my dad. He always told me I'd make something out of myself, and whenever I would fuck up, his thing to tell me was, "You're smarter than that. Your mom and I taught you better than that," which is true, they did. But still, never made me feel bad about myself. This one time, we were out somewhere, and I was really nice to our server, like having normal people manners. I'm also a server, so I already know the struggle. And he looked at me and smiled. And I looked at him like, "Why are you looking at me like that?" And he said, "I'm really proud of you." And I said, "Why? Because I was nice?" I was so confused. And he said, "Yeah, I taught you well." That was his thing. Every time he told me how proud he was of me, it was, "I taught you well," which I think is funny because he took all the credit for all the good stuff I did. But anyways, I was like, all right, I'll take it. Literally could do anything, and he'd always find a way to be proud. But I have had my mess-ups, and quite a few at that. Probably was grounded half my childhood. And I'm sorry for the story I'm about to say, Mom, but this one time in 8th grade, I was still living in LA, and Highland Park kids are, at least back then, different breed. They're taking edibles in elementary school. I was not one of those, but my 8th grade year, my friends and I got a hold of some weed, and I got caught with it, and I was in trouble. I remember, of course, having to eventually talk to my dad, and I was scared because I never really knew. Well, he never really got mad at me, but I just never knew. So when he found out, we talked, and he was more mad at himself, blamed himself. And I remember he said, "Well, now I'm scared you're going to steal my weed. I never thought I'd be here. I never thought I'd be worried about that." And he was genuinely concerned about it. I couldn't believe my ears. I started crying, laughing, because no way this guy is for real right now. And on the other hand, he on the other hand was not laughing. I had to put his mind at ease and let him know his weed is safe in his care. I told him that he was being dramatic, and we didn't even know what we were doing, and I don't smoke, so it wasn't anything past me having it. But that was the worst it got. I've always felt put on this pedestal growing up. I remember being so scared to cry in front of him because my dad saw me as this strong girl, and I always knew that. So my freshman year of high school, I went through my first heartbreak. And I remember being at my dad's house, and I was devastated. I couldn't help it but to cry, because I'm actually really emotional, which I think is really funny because so is my dad. And I didn't realize that until I grew up. So I started crying, and I was scared because I didn't want my dad to see me crying, but he did. Of course, I had to eventually tell him, and I remember how mad he was. And I don't know if you guys ever watched a bad game with him or seen him pissed, but he does this thing where he paces back and forth around the house or the room he's in, and he did that. And in my head, I was like, shit, I'm in trouble, because I wasn't allowed to have a boyfriend. But the first thing he asked is, where does he live? Of course, I didn't tell him, but I felt so loved in that moment, so protected. My dad was pissed somebody broke my heart, and that kind of made me happy. I remember going to school the next day, telling all my friends and people I knew who I felt would tell the guy what my dad said probably wasn't the smartest idea. Luckily, nothing happened. I was 14. I just wanted to scare him. It didn't work. It never got to him. But the other day, I found this voice recording of myself in July of 2020. And I was going through something at the time. And in that recording, I said, I have to keep going because my dad, because I know he's still going because of me. We just motivated each other in that way. I found this picture of myself in his wallet, and in the back it said, my hero. And for weeks after he passed, I was going through our messages. And I found the messages way long ago where he sent me that exact picture with what it said. The message said, you are my favorite person in this world. When I show you something, doesn't mean your job is done. I still expect you to be fucking awesome 24 hours a day. That's when he sent me the picture, and he continued to say, you stay fucking strong. Not one person in this world loves you more than me. You won't understand until you do. When you do, hug me. He used to always tell me that. I don't think I really understood what he meant until he passed, because I had time to sit and replay all our moments together and the moments I wish we shared. I know I have love filled in my corner, but with my dad, it was different. I knew I was his entire world. Absolutely nothing else mattered, and I was so lucky to be that for him and experience my dad's unconditional love. This year, the Eagles went to the Super Bowl. The last time they went, I did not watch football at all. I probably didn't even know they made it. This year, I remember thinking, I need to watch it with my dad. So I texted him, let's go to Nina's to watch it. And he was coming from Thailand, which is like a 20-hour flight, some crazy amount of hours. And he said he's gonna be tired, so he probably wouldn't be up for it. He didn't really understand I wanted to watch it with him. He thought I just wanted him to go to my Nina's, and I knew this because I gave him crap about it after, so I ended up watching it with my boyfriend's family. The whole day I was emotional because I only wanted to be with my dad. I remember thinking, what if this is the last chance I got to watch a Super Bowl with him when the Eagles are in it? This is where that anxiety comes in. But throughout the whole game, I'm texting him how the game was stressing me out, and there was a point I thought we were gonna take it. So we're talking just back and forth the whole game. When they lost, I started crying. So I snuck to the bathroom and cried and texted him, well, I'm 100% an Eagles fan for the rest of my life. I love you. His response, of course, was go Birds. And he said, I love you more. That's all I ever wanted. I remember after I told him that, next time I saw him, he said that I made him cry and that he was so happy. So now it's only right I have to take over as the number one Eagle fan and start understanding football. So far, I know what a touchdown is, which reminds me, I got my first tattoo back in July, and my next one I planned happened to be for my dad. So I texted him right away when I came up with the idea and said, I know what my next tattoo is going to be. You're going to love it. And he asked me what it was, but I wanted it to be a surprise, so I never told him. I just said, you'll have to wait and see. And he replied, my first tattoo was your name. I know he was hinting at it better be of him. Little did he know it was. It's gonna be of an eagle, but cuter than it sounds, and it's gonna have his initials. Never got to do it before he passed, and I never got to tell him what it was, but I know he'd love it. I think my main thing he's taught me watching him grow up as a man. My parents were both young when they had me, but he taught me the importance of loyalty. My dad was not a saint when he was younger by any means. I've heard some stories, but he grew up into the man that has people flying from different states out here to be with him and got an insane amount of donations to make all this possible. Loyalty is defined as a person's devotion or sentiment of attachment to a specific object, but he defined it in his own way. Whether it was to travel to a different state to help a friend move, to make sure no plans were made so he never missed an Eagle game, or made sure his plans included watching that Eagle game, or call me every day to make sure I was okay or if I needed anything, or threatening a 14-year-old boy for breaking his daughter's heart. He was my constant reminder that I am loved, and he so fiercely protected the people around him, even if that means holding me when I'm scared or chasing a van for almost hitting me. My dad's my hero. He's one of the strongest people I know. I'm so proud of him for so many reasons. It was and is an absolute blessing to be his daughter. I hope he's in peace wherever he is. I hope he is with me and continues to protect me, because if any of what they say is true, I know he'll never leave my side, and he'll always find a way to be here with me. Oh my God. I know he's really proud of me for being up here right now. I love you, Dad, more than you know until you know. Thank you.
Thank you, Jessica, for sharing that. Yes, your Father is with you, is always with you, and will always, always protect you. One of the most beautiful ways that we have to remember a loved one is through photographs. And so we would very much at this time like to share with you a slideshow presentation dedicated to Tony.
Do other moves, go.
About the bump and coming up on the super fast something cool. You know how we do it. Touch it with some game and feel the
It has been said sometimes when one person is missing, it feels like the entire world is depopulated. Frederick Buechner has written these words about remembering a loved one. When you remember me, it means that you have carried something of who I am with you, that I have left some mark on who I am with who you are. It means that you can summon me back to your mind, even though countless years and miles may separate us. It means that if we meet again, you will know me. It means that even after I die, you can still see my face and hear my voice and speak to me in your heart. For as long as you remember me, I am never entirely lost. Today, we don't say that Tony was, we say that Tony is. He is forever a part of you, for he has changed your life and added an element and a spark to your life that forever lives on. You can remember perhaps the sound of his cheer at an Eagles game, his footsteps, or the sound of his laughter, the music of his voice, and certainly how he made you feel. And these things are like sense memory. You may not think about them every moment of every day, but those sensations will occasionally rise up with you at unexpected times to bless you with memory. And so going forward, remember that there is no one way to grieve, no timeline that you must follow, but allow yourself love and compassion each day as you journey forward. Author Mike Dolan has written, "If there is a day to act on the love in your heart, it is today. It is this moment." So accept the angels that come to you in human form. Take in their comfort in hugs, in deeds, and in words, and lean on them, and allow them to hold you up at those times when your grief just seems too heavy to bear alone. Let the light of their love cradle you and nurture you as you go forward. And so in closing, we say to Tony, be free, be strong, be proud of who you have been, and know that you will be mourned and missed, but never forgotten, that no one can stand in your place, that you have loved and you are beloved now and always. You left an afterglow of smiles, as our memories will forever live on. You've left an echo whispering softly in our hearts, of happy times and of laughing times and of bright and shining days. With each thought we have of you, we send you peace, and with each memory we share, we will forever feel you close. So pass through the gates, enter without fear, returning to the giver of life to steep in the waters of perfection. Let the winds cradle you as you walk in the meadows of glory into glistening light. Rest, heal, bask in the radiance of newfound peace. As you go forward, each of you, as ambassadors of Tony's legacy, take care of one another. Take care of one another as Tony would want you to do. God bless you all for coming today.
Thank you, Jefferson, for your words of comfort and wisdom. And thank you, Jessica, for coming up and sharing from the heart. But thank you all for coming together as family and community. This will conclude our services today, and at this time, you'll have a chance to come forward and offer your respects one more time. If you come forward, please take the exit to the side, and you can gather in the front courtyard. I'd also like to remind everyone that you're invited to Audrey's home to continue your time together today. The address is found on the board at the entrance, and check in with each other. So it's my sincere hope that your memories and the example set by your beloved Tony will continue to uplift you all as you carry on as family and community. Let's begin with those towards the back, and we'll go row by row. We'll conclude the service with the casket bearers bringing out his casket to the funeral car. So thank you once again, and may you go in peace. Let's start with those towards the back. If you'd like to come forward. Thank you.